Greetings, programmers. Busted Thumbs back again for our fourth installment of our Learning to Scratch for beginners. When we left off in number 3, we had this program, which is our Scratch Cat Domingo, who runs back and forth 5 times, and the laps count. Now, there's a couple little odd things about what's going on here. One is that he seems to be running backwards, and I thought we could look at how we can change that particular thing before we go into our next bit of interesting topic inside of Scratch, and that's going to be user events. We're going to allow the user to start clicking around and doing interesting things. But first I wanted to finish up motion by talking a little bit about rotation as well. So we have this thing here where we can actually change the number, make our sprite turn either clockwise or counterclockwise, and that's what those arrows happen to be. And doing that is rotation. So we can do that, or we can actually have him point in a completely different direction. And what we really want to do is to make sure that every time we go around, when he's going to the right, he's pointing in the 90-degree direction, and when he's going to the left, he's flipped around and is pointing in the opposite direction. So 180 degrees off of that, and he's pointing in the other direction. So we can simply pop those in between our glides here by taking 2 of those. Make sure he's pointing in 90 degrees, and then make sure he's pointing at -90, which is to the left. And it was helpful to us. It told us this is to the right and that's to the left. Now you can set those to whatever degrees we want to. He could go up in diagonally if you wanted him to, but we're running straight across the screen. And so you're going to see this isn't going to be quite right, but you can see what happens here when we click on this. Now he's definitely facing in the right direction now, but you can see that he really rotated. He spun like as though he were on, on a clock and following the hands. He twisted all the way around, so he's now upside down as well. Scratch does give us one other thing that we can use to fix that up, and there's a rotation style that you can use. So even before we get into that repeating loop, we can go in and set the rotation style. And what he's set to right now is all around. He spins all the way around. And if we set him instead to left, right, then he's just going to actually flip when he turns instead of twisting around. And you'll see the difference when we get started here. And we do need to make sure that he starts out in the right direction. So let's make sure he does that. Okay. So let's make this run again. And he runs back and forth, more along the lines of what we would expect. He's pointing in the correct direction. He'll do that 5 times and he's done his laps, and then our program is complete. Well, that's going to take care of motion for us for I think all that we need to know for this bit of the tutorial. So let's start talking a little bit more about user interaction. A program's not really very interesting if it always does the exact same thing. We actually want our users, or our players if we're writing a game, to be able to do things inside of our programs. And what that means, doing things and reacting to things that are done, is all about the things that are inside of the events block. And that's at the top, just like motion, but on the right, and they're in the brown. We've already used one of these. We used when the green flag was clicked. But you can see that there's some other events which we can work with. There are things like when the key is pressed, or when the sprite is clicked, or when the backdrop switches to a different backdrop. And then there are broadcast messages, and we'll get to those a little bit later. So let's start with when the sprite is clicked. We can make it so that if someone clicks on here, he can do whatever we want him to. One of the kind of fun things to do is to actually have him talk to us. And where is that? There's the ask. There's also one that's say. And maybe that. There it is in purple. There's a say. And we're going to talk a little bit here, not just about the user interaction here, but we're going to talk a little bit about the operators as well. So one thing he could do is, if we had him clicked, we can use this say hello for 2 seconds, and you'll see what that does simply by running this. We go ahead and run him again. And here, actually, I'm going to stop him from running for a little bit. We'll get the motion part out of it. and we'll just handle the click. And I just did that. When I have a bit of a script that's not attached to an event, it's still there and it could run, but nothing's starting it to run, so it's not going to do anything. It's just going to be waiting for us to put it back in there again. So I'm going to run this again. He's not going to run. He's just going to go to where he should be. And then when I click on him, you see that he says hello, and he does that for about 2 seconds. Well, it'd be more interesting if he did something that had to do with the variables that we have so far. So it would be really nice if he said his name, right? So let's do that instead. And to do that, I'm going to use one of these operators. There's operators for math, things like plus, minus, multiply, divide. There's operators to check if one number is the same as another, or less than, or greater than. But what I want to use is these ones down here towards the bottom, which are based on strings, based on text. And there's this join one in particular that we're going to use. So I would like him to say, hello, my name is, and then put his name. And we store that in a variable. So that's pretty easy. We can pop that join guy in there. And what join means is it says take the things on the left and the right and just put them together and use that as the text that's going to go in here. So he's going to say, hello, my name is, and then we can take the variable of his name and pop it right in there. There's no punctuation there, so I'm going to show you that you can chain these things together. So go ahead and take another join, and we're going to pop that in there and put a period right there and just pop that join inside of the first join, and you'll see that when we run this and we make him bigger, now he'll tell you what his name is. Hello, my name is Domingo. Cool, right? Now this is reacting to me actually clicking on it, so that we've got something that actually triggers based on what the user is doing. I'm going to make this slightly more complicated and show you some of some more kind of control and Boolean checks is what we call them, but let me show you what that is. It could be that the name of my sprite is like he has no nickname, he just has a name. And it could be that he has a nickname. So I want to actually make two conditions here. And I'm going to say that if, I'm going to use this little block, and it looks like the C that we had before, but only now it's more like an E. There's kind of two of these repeating guys inside of there. I'm going to pop him in instead. And what this guy says is if something, then do this thing inside here. And I'm going to duplicate this guy. And the else says that otherwise do the thing down here, right? So what is this something? So you may notice that this guy in here doesn't look like anything we've seen before. He's kind of got these pointed edges to them instead of the round one. The variables were round, the blocks were kind of squarish. This one's more of a pointy one. And if you were paying closer attention earlier, you saw that we actually had a few of those that looked kind of pointy here. So what I want to do is use these, and the reason that they're pointy is because they always evaluate to either true or false. Something is the case or it isn't the case. And what I want to say is that if my name and my nickname are the same thing, right? See that? It says if the name is equal to the nickname, then I don't want to. I want to say this. I want to say hello, my name is. Otherwise, that if they're not the same, it means that they're different, and I need to tell them my name is this, but I'd rather you called me by my nickname. So we can actually join some more things together in here. So instead of that period, we can say, but you can call me, and then we need to join some more in here. Okay, so join, and actually we can take this, but you can call me, and put it here. But you can call me. And the period goes at the end, and the nickname goes in here. Now do you see what we've done here? All these little things which I've kind of joined together, the ones on the top happen first. So it's going to put nickname together with the period, and then it's going to put that together with but you can call me, then it's going to put that together with name, and then it's going to put that together with hello, my name is. And when the sprite is clicked, the first thing it's going to do is say, is nickname and the name the same thing? In our case, it's not because it's Domingo and Dom. So that's not going to happen. So it's not going to do this. Instead, it's going to do this else, which is this bigger thing here. And then let's see that now work. Go ahead and hit play. Click on him. See, hello, my name is Domingo, but you can call me Dom. Right? And now we can see that actually if those two things were the same, say the name and nickname were the same, I just do that by changing up here in my initialize bit. Now name and nickname are going to be the same. If I go back into my program and I hit it again and I click on him, he just did the top thing. He doesn't tell him about the nickname because they're the same. He doesn't have to. So now we call these conditionals. So if anybody says a conditional, then this is what you can do. It doesn't have to have an else. There's one in here that has if then, and it will only do the thing in here. And then when if that's not true, it will just start doing the things underneath it, just like anything else did. Like I could put that right there. I could make him start running his laps after he's clicked by putting that right there. So one of these two things will happen, and then the things underneath. If you used an if, then it would happen if this thing was true, if they were the same, and it wouldn't otherwise, and then it would repeat the things underneath it. Okay? So that's conditionals. We've got user interaction for clicking on the sprite. I want to show you one slightly more complicated user interaction. We've been having our cat move back and forth across the bottom of the screen, Domingo. But what if we wanted to actually click on the place that he should come to? Well, there's no sprite for that. Clicking on the screen anywhere, I can't say when I click on that sprite, then this event should happen. So that means that I'm now going to have to start working with the stage, because it's the stage that keeps track of things like that. And you will see that if you go to the events, instead of when this sprite is clicked, we have an event in here called when the stage is clicked. But the stage can't move the sprite. The sprite needs to move the sprite. So the best thing that the stage can do is simply to tell the sprite that it needs to move and tell it where it needs to move. In order for us to tell it anything about data, we have to create some data. So now we're going to need a couple of variables. You see how this is empty. There's no variables in here because all my variables I've created so far have been on my sprite. We're going to have to make some variables that everyone can see. The two variables that I want to do are where the user clicked in the X and where the user clicked in the Y. And you'll see that now that I'm creating a variable and I'm selected stage, I don't even have an option to do it for the sprite because it's just the stage isn't a sprite, so that you can't have that option. So I'm going to type in last clicked X here, and then I'm going to make a second one called last clicked Y, and make those both for all sprites, but I don't necessarily need to see them. I'm going to make them go away there. Now when the stage is clicked, I want to set the last clicked X and Y to where my mouse happens to be. So last clicked X, and we can get that from the sensing group. This lighter blue group on the middle right here is called sensing, and it has some variables inside of it, and one of those is the mouse's X, and we'll put that there, and another one is whether the mouse is Y. So what we're saying is when the user clicks anywhere on this stage, we're going to save into the last clicked X and last clicked Y the mouse position when it was clicked. And then we need to tell the sprite that it needs to go ahead and start moving. All right. So the way we have either one sprite tell another sprite to do something, or to have the stage tell a sprite to do something, or a sprite tell the stage to do something, is through broadcast events. And those are here in events. I told you we'd look at these towards the end here, and that's what we're going to do right now. So what we want to do is broadcast a new message. And the message we're going to tell it to broadcast, and once you put it in there, you can drop down to say new message, is run a lap. I want to tell my sprite to go ahead and run a lap. And what broadcast means is you can have lots of sprites. You could have cat, dog, mouse, whatever you wanted to. All of them will get a message that says run a lap. I was just told that everybody should know it's time to run a lap. So if you go back into your cat and you're back in here, you see that there is a when I receive, and we'll go ahead and pop that in here. I'm going to move this guy off to the side here. when I receive run a lap, that's when I want to go ahead and do this stuff. And we don't need to repeat anymore. We can just do it one time. So I'm going to get rid of that. And now it's going to go run a lap. But we've always had it go to the ending x and the ending y, but those aren't the variables that I want it to go to anymore. I want it to go to the place that was clicked. So what I could do one of two things. I could go ahead and take this data, which is the last clicked x and last clicked y, and put it in there. Or I could set ending x and ending y to those values. I think I'll do the latter, just so we don't change as much. So the ending x needs to be the last clicked x, and the ending y needs to be the last clicked y. I'll drag that back down. And he should do one lap when this happens. He should, as soon as he gets receive, I want to run a lap, he should set those things to the right values. He should point in to the right, go to where I clicked, turn around, come back again, and then change the number of laps by 1. All right, let's see if that works. Open this up, click play. I click on him, he still says his name is Dom. Now I click somewhere and he runs to it and back again, and the number of laps changes by 1. I click up here, he goes to there. Click down here, and each time the number of laps is changing by 1. Look at that. So we've got something now. We've got a program that's actually responding to our users. Or in the case of a game, if we had a game, it would be responding to our players. It's both responding when we click on the sprite, and it's responding when we click on the backdrop. And we've been able to do that a lot of different ways. We've learned about control flow, we've learned about conditionals, we've learned about broadcast messages, we've learned about the events that happen, user events when they happen. That's a lot of interesting stuff that we've learned about in a pretty short period of time here. And you now have enough tools that you can do a lot of interesting things with this. You could have your sprite run all around the screen, flip upside down, leave stuff behind. You could do all sorts of things. Let your imagination take over. Go ahead and take your own project after you're done listening to this one and play around with some of this stuff and see what you can do with it. It's a great time to build up on these tools and make your own programs. We'll certainly be doing more, and there's still some basics that will really help you to take the ideas that you have and turn them into real programs. We'll get to those in some of the next episodes that we do here, but I think we've made a great start in these first 4 to giving you some tools to be able to kind of have some fun and maybe tell a little story. You can take a few sprites and have them move around and just have a little story and react to where the user clicks around in them. I hope this has been fun. It's even more fun if you go and write your own. And we will keep going with this in our next episode. We'll do a little of animation this time, get a little art involved in the next one. All right, I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.